So, wir haben mal wieder ein englisches Video auf der Liste. Das wird natürlich dementsprechend wieder mit dem gelben Rahmen. Wir haben uns auf gelb geeinigt, markiert. Und zwar geht es heute um Jake Paul von den Paul-Brüdern. Logan Paul ist ja eigentlich eher im Fokus der Kritik in den letzten paar Jahren gewesen, so wie ich es wahrnehme. Ich sehe gerade schon im Chat, Spoiler, beide sind durch. Ich bin sehr gespannt. Wir haben heute dementsprechend Jake Paul auf der Liste. Ich kenne den, wie gesagt, gar nicht. Das Einzige, was ich weiß, ist, dass er boxt. Aber anscheinend, so entnehme ich das dem Videotitel, The Living Nightmare of Jake Paul, soll er selber gar nicht mal so unkontrovers sein. Dementsprechend bin ich sehr gespannt, wir gehen rein. Untertitel sind natürlich auch hart.
He is a social media megastar. His name is Jake Paul.
They've had enough of the chaos created by a social media star.
When there's a lot of people watching you and you're getting a lot of views and stuff, sometimes you want to like take it up to the next level, and you have to learn where that level is.
Good afternoon, Jake Paulers. This is what it looks like when someone at the Team 10 House is about to light themselves on fire.
Das klingt schon wie ein absoluter Fiebertraum. Die ersten 22 Sekunden sind schon, ich habe jetzt schon keinen Nerv mehr. Bin ich jetzt schon genervt. Das Ding ist, die wirken von vornherein einfach unglaublich reich. So. Die wirken für mich alle so wie, ne, also typischen LA Hollywood Kids, so, die einfach mit super viel Geld ausgestattet wurden von ihren Eltern und dann Abfahrt möglichst verantwortungslos mit diesem Geld umgehen. Die waren arm, krank. Einen wunderschönen guten Abend, schlagfertiger Philosoph. Einen wunderschönen guten Abend. Finde ich kaputt, dass sie dann so reich geworden sind. Also es ist natürlich geil, dass sie dann Wohlstand bekommen haben. So, ne? Klar, niemand sollte arm sein oder in Armut leben, ein bisschen so. Aber man sollte sich doch ja irgendwie dann so ein bisschen zufrieden geben, wenn man nicht mehr um Geld sich Sorgen machen muss, oder? Gehe ich jetzt von aus. Also, ich meine, ich bin selber nicht wohlhabend so. Und ich würde mich schon freuen, wenn ich am Ende des Monats mir keine Sorgen machen müsste, ob ich dann halt den nächsten Monat die Miete zahlen kann, so. Wenn die das verdienen, was sie verdienen, so, verstehe ich nicht, warum man dann immer mehr will. Das verstehe ich halt nicht. Da geht es ja um Millionen.
Jake Paul is making headlines after an FBI raid at his home in Calabasas.
Oder, da muss man ja fast Dingens, Epilepsiewarnung. Da muss man ja fast eine Epilepsiewarnung aussprechen. Das Ding ist einfach 42 Sekunden Intros. Ich hasse lange Intros. Ich habe keine Geduld für sowas. Junge, aber der Cutter ist natürlich, ne, der Cut ist aufwendig. So, da kann ich natürlich als Laie nicht mithalten. Naja, aber wenn du halt Kontroversen gestartet bist, musst du ja immer nachlegen. Wahrscheinlich Panik davor, wieder arm zu werden. Das kann ich mir wiederum vorstellen. Das Ding ist aber, ab einem gewissen Punkt hast du doch genug Geld, oder nicht? Weißt du, wenn du in der Lage bist, mal ordentlich eine Bank zu machen, so, dann hast du doch eigentlich ausgesorgt. Ja, du bist dann nicht, kannst nicht das High Society Rich Life leben, so, aber das sollte ja auch nicht der Maßstab sein. Ich meine, guck dir diese fucking Villa an. What the fuck, man? Dach beim Kopf, Essen auf dem Tisch. Was will man mehr? Ja. Ich meine, man muss ja auch nicht in einem halben Palast leben, so. Die Hälfte der Wohnung tut's ja auch.
I'ma eat your ass. I mean, I'ma beat your ass.
Yeah,
Bro. Oder? Meine Kings am Stissel. Okay. Sonntag ist das also. Ja, gönn dir. I don't judge. Tu, was dich glücklich macht, Bruder.
There's some YouTubers out there who just eat, sleep, and breathe clout.
I'm gonna be spending $500,000 on my sister Lexi's 21st birthday.
If you're not too careful, you can really let content rule your life.
Kirsten and I are gonna be playing the Touch My Body Challenge.
Den hat man doch auch schon mal irgendwo gesehen, oder nicht? Freudscher Versprecher. Das war so doll. Das war so doll, der Freudscher Versprecher. So. Ja, deswegen, we don't judge hier. So, be whoever you want to be. So. Das war's schon. Nice. So, weißt, und da vielleicht nochmal eine unpopular Opinion, aber ich empfinde Boxen, also diese extrem brutalen, hypermaskulinen Sportarten, immer leicht ein Stück homoerotisch. Weil dieses, ne, Face-to-Face, Close Combat so, Das hat schon was sehr Intimes. Und wenn dann solche Sachen rausrutschen, dann habe ich das Gefühl, dass auch er das leicht so sieht. So. Deswegen, also, I don't judge, das ist cool. Soll er sich ausleben. So. Sollen da die Männer down and dirty gehen und intim sein und sowas untereinander. So. Ist alles cool. Habe ich ja gar kein Problem mit.
You get to the point where nothing else matters besides deciding which of your friends and family members to grossly exploit for ad revenue. Sorry, I don't know what that was. The truth is, YouTube promotes a lifestyle that isn't always the healthiest. If you want to make videos for a living, especially for a significantly younger audience, there are some things you may...
Diesen Dude, ne? Ist das nicht ein TikToker oder so? Ich sehe, hab den am Anfang, ganz früher, als ich mir TikTok zum ersten Mal geholt hatte, so. Und dann irgendwann wieder gelöscht hatte, weil ich keinen Sinn da drin gesehen habe damals. So. Der war da die ganze Zeit rumlungern. Er und seine Schwester. Aber das ist auch so einer, so ein Cloud Chaser, oder was ist da los?
Need to do in order to make it to the top. Sometimes the cost of that Lamborghini involves dangling you and your friends above a pool of cow
Manure. Literally, it is poop everywhere, guys. We're going to be lifted in the air by this excavator over the pile of poop to see who can hang in the air the longest.
Or writing, shooting, and editing one of the most
emotional damage.
Was zur Hölle? Was zur Hölle? Das war Brent Revere, ne? Brent Revere. Brent. Was ist das für ein Name? Brent Revere. Jesus. Crazy.
disliked music videos in the history of the website. Or tasing people.
Ja, das ist Code. Das ist legit Code gewesen. Sexual Taser Prank. Bro. Bro, was zur Hölle? Also, was zur Hölle?
Actually? Okay, yeah, scratch that last one. What the fuck am I looking at? Throughout his nearly 7 years of being a self-described problem child, Logan Paul's baby brother has garnered his own share of negative headlines. Whether he's being sued by his own
Ach, er ist der Jüngere von beiden? Weiß ich nicht.
neighbors, shunned by Disney Channel, sued over a crypto scam, denying the existence of global health crises, sued over another crypto scam, or called out by pretty much everyone who was ever remotely associated with him.
Und er ist auch ein Corona-Leugner. Bro. Talking about Reichweitenverantwortung, ey. Oh, ich kann das nicht mehr.
Professionally. The full extent of this guy's behavior is way darker and more prolific than I ever could have imagined, honestly. We're all familiar with the name Jake Paul, but how many of us really know how deep his insidious behavior goes? Or a better question, how many of us want to know? I don't, but also I'm a masochist, so join me in documenting scandal after scandal of yet another disreputable entertainer who continues to bring shame to the Paul family.
Genau. Das ist nämlich genau das Ding. Logan Paul, sein anscheinend älterer Bruder, der war der mit dem Leichenwald. So, das hat man mitgekriegt so. Aber er, der jüngere Bruder, ist anscheinend mindestens genauso wild unterwegs. So, deswegen, das hatte ich über 3 Ecken gehört und war halt neugierig und wollte da mal auf den Zahn fühlen. Und sah da dieses Video. Dachte mir so, da kannst du ja mal reingehen im Stream. Weil wir generell ja uns auch mal mit amerikanischen Creators auseinandersetzen wollten. Und dann mache ich halt eine Playlist. So, ne? Typischen Verdächtigen aus Amerika.
Promoting a scam and someone's going to jail.
The truth is, by now, Jake Paul is the worst Paul brother.
Influence, which was one of the most blatant scams I've ever seen from a YouTuber that weirdly didn't really affect Jake Paul at all.
With a name that sounds surprisingly biblical, Jake Joseph Paul was born on January 17th, 1997 in Cleveland, Ohio, raised alongside, I don't even have to say. Unsurprisingly, he and his older brother had a pretty similar upbringing in Westlake. Being only a few years apart, the two played sports together.
Ich dachte immer, das wären Zwillinge. Ich dachte echt immer, das wären Zwillinge, ohne Scheiß.
Went to the same schools, and of course each developed a passion for making videos when Jake was handed his first ever camera by his dad at 10 years old. Like Logan, Jake really began to hone his skills thanks to the help of Vine, a defunct and worse version of TikTok that you can hear me talk more about in my Logan video. God knows I'm not explaining it twice, sorry. The quick summary is that Jake and Logan blew up pretty congruent to each other. To the passive viewer, there wasn't really a huge difference between them and their Vines, other than Logan seemed to be a bit more comfortable comfortable in front of the camera, whereas you could tell it didn't always come as natural to Jake. Can't blame him for that, but it was an awkwardness that would follow his on-screen presence for years to come.
Ey, ohne Witz, das sieht alles so unglaublich cringe aus. Das für mich, Wein war das bessere TikTok. Wein war so heftig cringe. Und diese ganzen Videos, das sieht so unglaublich cringe aus. Digga.
You want a DJ? Yeah. You a DJ? You know what?
You want a DJ?
I'm a DJ. You always doing the music stuff.
Oh my god! Oh!
Yeah, that one hurt.
You're always doing the music stuff, man.
He didn't first go viral until 2014, when he was quickly pushed over 500,000 followers, and before long he began getting recognized in public, putting his military aspirations to the side to focus full-time
Das sind seine Zuschauer. Das sind alles Kinder.
on becoming an entertainer. Yes, you heard that correctly. Had he not blown up to become the loudmouth megastar we all know him to be, we could be living in a reality where Jake Paul is a Navy SEAL. Maybe he could have met Dan Bilzerian. Hey, look at that. Jake's account saw about the same level of success as Logan's, reaching over 5 million followers and 2 billion loops by the time Vine met its untimely demise. Only unlike Logan, Jake already had an even more lucrative career alternative lined up in the meantime.
Contestant number 3.
Oh, sorry, we're not there yet. There we go.
War das dein Vater? Was war das? Was zum...
Emotional damage!
Ich brauch so einen Shutdown-Knopf. Ohne Witz, ich brauch so einen Shutdown-Knopf. Was zur Hölle war das? Was zur Hölle war... Ich kann das alles... Ich bin jetzt schon am Ende, Alter. Was war denn das? Haben sie so einen Kissing-Content so... Mit dem... Nee, nein, ich kann das alles... Oh, nee, nicht drüber nachdenken. Wir nehmen diesen Eindruck und schieben ihn woanders hin.
I'm Jake Paul from Bizarre Vark, and you're watching Disney Channel. Oh, no looker. First ever. Oh, nailed it. What up, Darren and Amelia?
Bruder.
Cringe.
Bruder. No looker. First ever. Nailed it. Bro. Einige Triggerwarnung ist vielleicht angebracht. Ja, Cringe-Warnung hoch 30, Alter. Also, was ist das? Also, Digga. Also, da müsste man ja fast ein Trickspiel draus machen, so. Ich trinke einen Shot, wann immer ich den Cringe nicht aushalte. Instant Krankenhausaufenthalte.
I'm here with my collab partner, Amelia.
And we're gonna do some intense stares I cooked up.
Thanks for coming to the lair, Amelia.
Lasting a grand total of 3 seasons, Bizarre Vark was a Disney Channel original series from the late 2010s that starred Jake Paul, Madison Hugh, Ethan Wacker, and Olivia Rodrigo. And I have to say, as a self-admitted sour enjoyer, seeing these two interact makes me feel like I'm having a brain bleed.
Dirk and Kirk, do you have a sister named Smirk?
Who do you work for?
For those that haven't heard of the show, which I'm guessing is all of you, Bizarre Vark was basically a dollar store iCarly. Disney wanted to capitalize on the growing popularity of influencers, so they made a show about them and hired Jake Paul, who pretty much just played himself, but somehow couldn't even do that right.
Dirk rides a shopping trolley into a brick wall.
Yeah, just like his...
Ey, ohne Witz, ne? Jetzt mal ohne Witz. Das ist einfach zu krank. Es tut einfach weh. Was zum Fick haben die sich dabei gedacht damals? Cringe-Sirene? Was ist denn die Cringe-Sirene?
Warning, warning, cringy moment incoming. This is a cringe alert. I repeat, this is a cringe alert.
Akkurat. Ey, ohne Witz. Das hat doch keiner geguckt, oder? Oder?
Vlogs, this show is specifically manufactured for children. But unlike his vlogs, it actually stayed age appropriate. Outside the character Dirk Man, Jake wasn't your typical Disney actor. He was also building a platform outside of mainstream.
Dirk Man. Hieß Dirk Man. Ey, ich krieg hier noch ein Schleiertrauma. Ey, worauf habe ich mich hier eingelassen? Worauf habe ich mich hier eingelassen? Disney, do better.
television, posting almost every day to his new YouTube channel, which even featured some footage of him and his fellow cast members working on set.
It's a pet rat.
But this outlet is where we begin to see a bit of a problem, because it was what he was doing outside of Bizaardvark that eventually landed him in hot water with the network.
First of all, I want to say, like, I loved everyone that was a part of Bizaardvark and all of the castmates, Olivia, Madison, DeVore, Ethan.
Despite being literally handed one of the most sought-after career opportunities a young actor could dream of, Jake wasn't super concerned with keeping his spot at Disney. In fact, he wasn't truly willing to put anything above his online growth. And who can blame him? Why show up to work at a studio to film a show nobody's gonna watch when you could just make the same, if not more money on your own by throwing a million thumbtacks on the floor, or hanging a bunch of tasers from the ceiling, or tasing your best friends? Sorry, can we just acknowledge the Paul brothers' obsession with tasing? I feel like at a certain point it's just odd.
Electricity.
Other than Bizaardvark, Jake was famous for being a public nuisance, and truthfully, Disney had to have known that. They were fine with his behavior to an extent, but eventually had to draw a line in the sand when his pranks, parties, and fires caused so much of a disturbance.
Wieso sind die da am Zündeln? Kann es sein, dass sie Jackass nachmachen wollten? Ey, die haben in dem Garten eine Matratze angezündet. Was geht bei denen falsch? Alter, Digga, was? Was zur Hölle? Und das auf YouTube hochgeladen sein, nach denen so. Und das war deren Content. Die sind eine wandelnde Liability für jedes seriöse Unternehmen.
His neighbors threatened to file a class action lawsuit come 2017, and Jake was being slammed by a wave of negative press as he and Team 10 continued making noise across the internet. Naturally, it was only a matter of time before his online life clashed with his Disney career, and once he climbed on top of that news van, it was all over.
A lot of the neighbors are complaining. They're very upset.
No, why?
They say that you've created a living hell out here, that it's like a circus.
Yeah, it is.
All the fans.
I mean, but people like going to circuses, right?
Disney announced they were severing all ties with Jake Paul.
Wie alt war der denn damals? Wie alt war der denn?
In July 2017, writing his character Dirk completely out of the show in the middle of producing season 2, which Jake claimed was a mutual decision at the time, of course, but anyone with a half-functioning nervous system knew exactly who made that call. Disney wanted nothing to do with the new content he was making, but that content wasn't about to slow down. Indicated by a statement he wrote on Twitter, this was only the beginning of his new personal brand, and honestly, I wish he were lying. Team 10 was a group of architects.
Ohne das alles, was da passiert, ist absolute Eskalation, absolute Entgleisung. Ich frage mich immer, wo waren da die Eltern? Ich frage mich, woher das Geld kommt, diese ganzen Unsinn zu machen. Und dann natürlich, wo sind die Eltern? Das ist die nächste Frage. Weil das sollte die erste Hürde sein, so nicht genug Geld, um ein Motorrad zu mieten oder zu besitzen, und das durch Eltern haben mitgemacht. Ja, wahrscheinlich. Ist ja Amerika, so, ne? Irgendjemand muss ja das große Geld mit nach Hause nehmen, so.
Who challenged the doctrinaire approach to urbanism in 1950. Oh wait, it's the wrong one. Jake Paul's Team 10 was a group of social media stars all living under the same roof of a multi-million-dollar LA mansion, taking turns collaborating with one another and creating drama. Despite Jake's disputable claims that Team 10 was the first ever content house, in reality they were just following in the footsteps of FaZe Clan, Our Second Life, and even Team Crafted, which of course is a disaster of its own that we don't have enough time to get into today. Team 10's original members, though, consisted of this guy, that dude, this person, these two guys, and Alyssa Violet, who was the first of many to leave after breaking up with Jake.
Are you mad? Are you mad? I'm annoying. I'm so annoying.
The roster was then updated to include...
Was ist mit diesen Menschen, Alter? Bro, was geht da ab? Ey, das ist eine absolute Entgleisung. Das alles nicht mehr, Mann. Ich kann das alles nicht.
these people. Not all of the names here are totally relevant considering they had all been replaced by the time Team 10 officially fell apart. That's right, every single member aside from Jake hardly lasted more than 2 years at most. And the reasons for that vary, but we'll get into those later. Assuming you weren't 6 years old in 2017, allow me to paint a picture of what Team 10 was famous for.
We have a very funny thing that is about to go down right now, cuz we made up this letter that basically is saying that Nick is going to get deported. It's like
Hihi, ha, 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 hihi, ha, ha, ha. Du wirst abgeschoben, hihi, ha, ha. Ja, weil voll lustig und so.
so legit. Got the stamp on it and everything. Is this mean?
I mean, yeah.
Jake Paul told the New York Times his ultimate vision was to create an empire of dozens of talent under me, to take my power and multiply it so that I become bigger than myself. Which sounds like a supervillain origin story. Who talks like that? The official arrangement was that an influencer signed to Team 10 could live in a giant Beverly Grove mansion for free as long as they were producing content that Jake could monetize. As every member was reportedly
Das klingt wie eine Sekte. Ohne Scheiß, das klingt wie eine Sekte. Und er ist der Sektenguru. Ohne Scheiß. Das klingt wie eine fucking Sekte, Mann. Warum hat da keiner drüber gesprochen, dass er sich eine Sekte gegründet hat?
Required to sign a contract that allowed Jake to take 10 to 20% of their ad revenue for up to 5 years, even if they left the group, which maybe to an impressionable teen didn't sound like the worst trade. After all, this is Jake Paul we're talking about. He can make you famous, man, come on. That's at least what AJ Mitchell thought when he signed on to Team 10 at 14 years old.
Das ist eine Sekte. Und die nehmen da vulnerable Kinder und binden die in einem 4-Jahres-Vertrag.
The original Team 10 lineup consisted of an age range of 14 to 19 with no official parental supervision whatsoever. Minors were basically meant to fend for themselves in a wannabe frat house led by this man. I don't think I have to explain why that's a recipe for disaster.
Der war ein Känguru. Der wohnt mit Minderjährigen zusammen und zündet andauernd Dinge an und da rennen Tiere durch den Garten und so. Ey, in Deutschland wäre das doch... Nur in Amerika ist das möglich. Allein den Satz auszusprechen, zeigt auch schon auf, wie absurd diese ganze Konstellation ist.
AJ appeared to be living a life of luxury on social media. He claims he was also deprived of food and made to sleep on the floor during his time at Team 10. As he himself will tell you, Jake's true business model was far from the carefree utopia he claimed to offer.
They have this electromagnetic machine that's basically like a torture device.
But it may be hard for me to do this next part sober.
Das ist wirklich, wirklich unglaublich. Also das ist halt wirklich, das ist Werbung, die brauchen wir nicht. Das ist halt wirklich absolut unglaublich. Er war 19 damals, hat mit 14-Jährigen zusammengelebt in einer Wohnung und hat solche Stunts gemacht wie vom Dach springen, Gegenstände anzünden, rumfackeln, Leute Prankbriefe schicken, die dann denken aus dem Team, die dann denken, sie werden deportiert. Das ist nur bodenlos, Alter. Ey.
We are about to have some fun.
With Jake's determination to convert any and every conceivable scenario into content to further the brand, privacy must have been borderline impossible to find living at the Team 10 house. In addition to Jake chainsawing through doors to wake people up in the morning and smashing his assistant's property,
Chainsawing through doors. Der hat eine Kettensäge genommen und hat durch Türen gesägt, um die Mitglieder dieses Hauses zu wecken. Also die haben effektiv ihr Recht auf Privatsphäre abgegeben, ohne es im Vorfeld zu wissen, weil da natürlich nicht im Vertrag niedergeschrieben wurde, was alles gemacht werden darf, dass er die Real-Time, Real-Rap foltern darf. Mitten in der Nacht aufwachen, mit Schneebällen bewerfen, während sie schlafen, die zwischen Matratzen einklemmen, weil man auf das obere Bett draufgesprungen ist, komische Tiere mit in die Wohnung reinbringen, wie Kängurus oder sowas so, mit der Kettensäge durch die Tür gehen, aufsägen, um die Leute zu wecken. Also was? Also, das ist doch der beste Beweis, dass sowas wie Cancel Culture nicht existiert. Ein normaler Mensch müsste nur eine einzige Sache davon gemacht haben. Und du wärst unten durch bei allen. Das sind teilweise Minderjährige. Das ist fucking Child Abuse. Das kannst du dir nicht. Das ist doch nicht richtig. Das ist doch nicht. Das kannst du. Das musst du. Das ist doch nicht.
For funny videos, 9-year-olds were lining up and down the block in hopes of catching a glimpse of their favorite band of influencers after their address leaked online. These disturbances, though, didn't cause Jake to stop and reflect on how his negligence could be negatively affecting the people around him, and instead only seemed to fuel his desire to become YouTube's new $1 million.
Eine Rauchgranate ins Fenster geworfen. Dort, wo seine. Doch, sie existiert, er hat nur leider die Culture gecancelt. Ey, Digga, der hat eine Smokebomb ins Fenster seines. Ey, das kannst du dir nicht ausdenken, Alter. Dass das keine Konsequenzen hat, das will ich nicht glauben. In Deutschland wird das doch völlig reichen, dass du dein fucking ganzes Leben lang im Knast landest. Allein, also, das ist doch. Bro, also, das ist völlig irre.
Bad boy. I really can only describe his content as Nick Jr. on crack. Clickbait and controversy financed the mansion he absolutely neglected. But this perfect storm allowed for titles like He Jumped Off Our Roof, Traffic Slip and Slide, and all those wonderful taser videos we love so much to garner tens of millions of views on the regular. This was when YouTube pranks were at peak popularity, and Jake wasn't about to miss his chance to make an easy dollar. Even if it meant tricking Tessa Brooks into being handcuffed to a basketball.
Er ist ein anständiger Junge, ich kenne ihn jahrelang. Er hat immer sauber und fair versucht zu spielen.
Ehre! Vielen Dank für deinen Sub. Vielen Dank für deinen Sub. Der erste Sub sogar. Der erste Sub ist der allerwichtigste. Vielen Dank für deinen Vertrauensvorschuss an der Stelle. Ehre! Dankeschön. In Deutschland ist das schwere Körperverletzung, wenn da jemand chronische Lungenprobleme hat, davon bekommt man bis zu 5 Jahre. Ja, safe. Deswegen, also einfach sich das mal vorstellen, so du hast ein Haus, für das du verantwortlich bist, weil du da, ne? Und dann hast du 9 andere Leute, die da drin wohnen und du schmeißt einfach, während dein Minderjährige in dem Haus auch noch wohnt, eine Rauchbombe rein. Ja, allein dafür wirst du da schon im Knast sitzen. Allein dafür.
Goal, only to taunt her with a very real taser. In another prank on Tessa titled Buried Alive Prank Freakout, Jake starts by detailing how he and his buddies are about to smother her with blankets while she's asleep and wake her up with ambulance sounds to simulate the inside of a coffin.
You go into someone's room while they're sleeping, you put a ton of blankets over them. It's like a lot of weight and like pressure, and they feel like they're in a coffin. And guys, this would only work because like they're just waking up, and then they're still asleep while all of this weight is on them, and you play an ambulance noise, and then you start to talk like it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay, she's gonna make it through it, she's gonna make it through it, and then they freak out. It's gonna be okay.
Das ist so unglaublich gestört. Das ist so unglaublich gestört. Das kannst du doch nur als unter 10, na, vielleicht unter kleine edgy 14-, 15-Jährige, die finden das vielleicht auch noch lustig so. Aber das ist halt so unglaublich gestört.
It's gonna be okay.
Geil, ja. Legit.
It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Are you okay?
No, that was so scary.
Are you mad at me? You couldn't breathe?
No.
I can only imagine like waking up.
Ohne Stress. Stell dir vor, die hat eine Panikattacke, beißt sich auf die Zunge und beißt sich ein Stück Zunge ab. Bro, was machst du dann? Was machst du dann? Du bist ja der verantwortlich so. Und der wäre Swatting, ja. Wurden die auch, die wurden mehrfach geswattet, nachdem das Ding ja geleakt wurde, meine ich, mich zu erinnern. Das sagen, was gerade gesagt wurde, dass die Adresse geleakt wurde. Ich glaube ne, die wurden nicht geswattet, die Zuschauer sind da nur hingeswarmt. Geswattet wurden die, glaube ich, noch nicht. Werden die geswattet? Hat man damals schon geswattet? Ich weiß es nicht. Das ist halt 2017 oder so. Aber, what the fuck?
And then it just cuts to him opening fan mail.
I was reading through all of it last night. I'm gonna get to opening the rest of it, but thank you guys so much for sending the fan mail.
And again, even if this was fake and Tessa was totally on board with the prank, Jake still takes the time to explain to his audience of 4-year-olds how to do it themselves. It doesn't excuse anything when the behavior is being promoted. You'd think Jake having such a younger audience might cause him to be a little more responsible with what he was putting out, but no. He'd rather prank his friends into thinking their fellow Team 10 member bled to death in the bathroom.
Oh my god! That's not funny. What is that? That's not funny. That's not funny. That's
Jake Paul is we're savage, baby.
Yeah, these people were basically living in the Team 10th circle of hell. Thank you. But the group finally reached their peak of success with It's Everyday Bro. And while it may have come out 6 years ago, I will never not laugh at England is my city. Godspeed, Nicholas Crompton. This was his first and
Keine Ahnung, wer das war.
only video to crack almost 300 million views. But such sudden exposure also introduced Team 10 to a new wave of criticism they couldn't avoid. And being lambasted on such a public stage meant Jake's dark secrets couldn't stay hidden for long.
I don't even want to talk about it because like it makes me so uncomfortable, and like I just hate mentally going back to where I was in that state of mind and just even thinking about that situation because it's just so emotionally draining.
Because Team 10 threw more than a few disses her way in their biggest song to date, Alyssa Violet took to her YouTube channel to clear the air on her ex Jake after the two went their separate ways earlier 2017. Starting from the very beginning, Alyssa talks about first meeting Jake at a Logan Paul meet and greet her senior year of high school. After getting to know one another, Jake promised to make her dream of becoming an actress and model a reality by adding her to the team.
Oh no. Ist das dieser... Er macht den Weinstein. Er macht den Harvey Weinstein. Du willst doch ein Star werden, oder? Ja, doch genau das, was ich dir sage. Er hat den Weinstein gemacht, Alter. Bevor der Weinstein bekannt war, oder wie? Warte, wann war MeToo? 2017? Oder? Da war er schon bekannt. Im selben Jahr effektiv, oder was?
10 roster. The two would become pretty close from that point on, as moving into a mansion together only strengthened their bond. The only issue was Jake never made the relationship official, purposely leaving Alyssa in the dark by showing her love 1 second, then treating her with absolute disdain the next.
And like he knew exactly what he was doing.
Noch schön die Psychospielchen am Start, dass man auch natürlich auch nie das Gefühl hat, irgendwie, ne, gewissen Halt und Sicherheit zu haben. So schön die Psychospielchen, so. Das ist halt so kaputt. Wie kann dieser Mensch ja, Lovebombing und dann natürlich am langen Arm verhungern lassen, so. Oh, diese Bait and Switch und Grooming. War die denn minderjährig? Weil das wäre krank.
He like played all these mind games. He would literally tell me he loved me one day and then tell me he hates my guts the next day. He told me he loved me one night and then like a couple days later he flew out this girl from Ohio. They were like hooking up in Ohio. That happened all the time.
She never quite knew what to expect, as she described mind games that included Jake being able to see other people, but not the other way around, flying various girls out to the house night after night, knowing exactly how it made Alyssa feel. She described having to put on a facade around these women and pretend she wasn't bothered by the fact they were sleeping with the person she loved. Even when she could
gerade volljährig kam am Ende der Highschool, oder? Ich weiß es nicht genau. Aber das klingt halt echt krank narzisstisch, ohne Scheiß. Also das ist halt... Das wirkt für mich alles wie, dass dieser Mensch nur Menschen in seinem Umfeld nutzt für seinen eigenen Vorteil. Alles transaktionell und sobald Leute keinen Nutzen mehr für einen haben, so, weil der hat sein Team ja so krass ausgewechselt, ne? Diese hier Team 10 oder sowas, so. Dann werden die halt ausgewechselt. Vor allem die Leute, mit ihm chillen, die Content, die machen, sind effektiv seine Angestellten innerhalb dieses Sektenverhältnisses. Weil er kriegt ja von jedem Content, von dem den die machen in den nächsten 4 Jahren, nachdem sie seinen Vertrag unterschrieben haben, bekommt er ja mindestens 10%. So, die sind ja auch nicht befreundet, aber die geben so eine, für die Zuschauer haben natürlich dann das Gefühl, dass die befreundet sind, wenn die halt so miteinander rumalbern und was weiß ich was alles. Und wahrscheinlich glauben einige das auch, so wenn die dann mit ihm die Zeit verbringen, so, dass das ein freundschaftliches Verhältnis ist oder so. Aber das wirkt für mich alles super transaktionell, das ist super toxisch.
Hear it happening in the next room.
Like I'd hear the front door open, Jake would come home with like a girl, my stomach would just drop, my heart would just like start beating like so fast, I felt like I was gonna like be sick. And I'd just get back from the gym, I'd be cooking food, and then all of a sudden I'd hear them upstairs like I could hear it. I could literally hear it. Like, do you know what that does to a person that you like love? And then you could just hear them like banging another girl upstairs. And that's happened so many times. Like, it's not, something clicks in your head.
If you ever had...
Das ist so unglaublich bodenlos, ne? Also, muss man sich vor Augen halten, ne? Die lernen sich kennen, er verspricht ihr die Welt, sie zieht bei denen ein, unterschreibt diesen 4-Jahres-Vertrag. ne? Bindet sozusagen all ihren Content, den sie jetzt in den nächsten 4 Jahren halt machen darf, an ihn finanziell. Dann hat sie eine emotionale Beziehung mit ihm, also sie liebt ihn ja, so. Und er nutzt sie halt anscheinend aus, schläft aber, während er ihre Gefühle und die Beziehung, die er mit ihr hat, nicht anerkennt, nebenbei noch mit anderen Frauen, während sie natürlich das nicht darf, weil es ja keine offene Beziehung, so. Und wenn trennen und einfach weggehen und wegziehen, sagen, ja, ich will das alles nicht mehr, kann sie ja auch nicht, weil sie ist ja in einem 4-Jahres-Vertrag mit dem, dass, wenn sie sich trennen würde, müsste sie wahrscheinlich gewisse Vertragsaustrittsklauseln erfüllen, vielleicht sogar noch ein Geld abtreten. Selbst und dann, darüber hinaus, wäre sie immer noch nicht in der Lage, aus dem Fame, den sie gesammelt hätte, durch diesen Vertrag dann Kapital zu schlagen, weil sie immer noch Geld an ihn abtreten müsste. Also, sie ist finanziell und räumlich und emotional an ihn gebunden. An der Stelle muss man das nochmal betonen, weil ich sehe da jetzt schon wieder Leute, die sagen, ja, aber die hätte ja auch einfach wegziehen können. Oder was lässt man sich auch auf so jemanden ein? Die ist auf mehreren Ebenen an diesen Menschen gebunden und der nutzt diese Machtposition, die er halt durch diese ganzen Bindungsgeschichten hat, schamlos aus. Das ist halt so unglaublich widerlich.
Had true feelings for someone, you can probably imagine how heartbreaking this must have been. Alyssa stated that she didn't know why she stayed for so long, other than she loved Jake and was determined to do everything she could to make it work. Not to mention she too had signed 5 years of her life and 20% of her own ad revenue over to Jake. So of course she
und 20% der Ad Revenue von allen Kanälen, die sie da irgendwie. Das ist halt noch kaputt. Also ich dachte 4 Jahre.
Felt a little trapped.
There's nothing I can do about it because like it's his house. I'm in a contract with him. I'm basically where I'm at because of him, and like I didn't really have a place to tell him that he was wrong, even though he was really, really wrong.
Jake was able to maintain total authority over everyone there, determining who got the most exposure, who left, etc. It wasn't until Alyssa began treating him the way he had treated her for so long that he finally dropped her from the team. Just like that, Alyssa was cut from the massive empire she helped build and left homeless, only to be dissed by her friends on a major song a few months later. Obviously, you'd have to understand her frustration, going so far as to call Jake an emotional abuser in a later interview.
And I want to clear the air because he's not like a physical abuser, like he's not an abuser, but it's mentally and emotionally 100%. Every day, 2,000 times a day. I can't even remember a conversation where it was like me walking away like feeling good about myself.
And really, it's no wonder that despite this happening 5 years ago, the two have never really.
Vor allen Dingen, dann wird sie doch gedisst. Die war ja die, Teil der Mitgründer, also einer der ersten aus der Startcrew sozusagen so. Dann wird die noch gedisst, ey. Das ist so kaputt, Mann. Es fällt einem nichts zu ein.
Been able to reconcile.
Whenever Jake would come over the house, he's been in my house like 2 times in Ohio, like back in the day, and like no one liked him. Like, so that should have been a red flag.
When's the last time you've talked to him?
I have had him blocked for years. He's
still unblocked? You still have him unblocked? Wow.
That kid's so problematic. I'm like, I don't even want to deal with it.
Alyssa could see the red flags very early on, and while it may have been hard then, it was probably for the best that she escaped Team 10 when she did. Plus, the diss track she made with Rice Gum still goes pretty fucking hard. Among the next major members to leave were Ivan and Emilio Martinez, who Jake flew out from Spain to live with everybody in the Team 10 house around the same time the group was forming. Shortly after, another set of twins left the group, interestingly enough.
Das ist auch so ein Ding. Du wirst extra aus Spanien da eingeflogen, so. Talking about. Ja, also. Ich will gar nicht wissen, wie alt die waren, so. Das ist halt. Du bist da einfach gestrandet, effektiv, und bist auf ihn und seine ganze Sekte da angewiesen.
While staying in LA, they were subjected to frequent racial discrimination and harassment from Jake himself, who made fun of their English and mocked them with slurs, taking it to such an extent that Jake prohibited them from learning English since it made for funnier content, according to them.
He started making fun of us because of our English. He was saying to us all the time, like, we found out what was and we were like, he cannot joke.
Was? Der hat einen rassistischen Slang-Term für Mexikaner genannt? Das sind Spanier. Und weil die nicht Englisch sprechen, sondern Spanisch, hat er die als Mexikaner Ja, das ist halt cool. Wie kann das nicht? Ist egal, alles Spanier, stimmt. Kommt zwar aus Europa, so, liegt ein ganzes Meer dazwischen, so, aber ich meine, das ist gleich. Das kannst du dir nicht ausdenken.
About that. There's in blogs that he's calling us Martiners. We try to get a teacher just to know English, just to learn English, how we're gonna learn English. And they were like, no. Why? Because it was fun for their blogs. Like, it was like, yeah, it's fine because it's like funny.
They were also made to sleep in the living room for a total of 4 months after being told they'd be getting their own room. But even when they got a room, they were still mortified of going to sleep since Jake would make them leave their door unlocked so that he could wake them up with whatever prank he saw fit. Such a lack of privacy prompted them to ask Jake if they could live some.
Hat er da gerade. Digga, der sägt da das Bett an, während da Leute drin liegen. Das ist halt, Alter. Das ist halt so kaputt, Mann.
Whatever prank he saw fit. Such a lack of privacy prompted them to ask Jake if they could live somewhere else, but Jake wouldn't allow it. When the two went back to Spain to see their family, Jake and friends ended up destroying a wall of their fan art for the sake of a vlog, ripping apart the twins' room when they weren't there to do anything about it.
Goodbye, Martinez room! It's every day, bro! Oh!
Also der Kerl ist völlig unhinged, ohne Witz. Der ist völlig unhinged. So das Fanartchen hängt da noch dran und der haut da einfach durch so. Scheiß auf eure Fans.
ADM1 RAL_Hipster Cheert X100, bevor ich komplett ausraste. Ich verschwinde mal in Baldur's Gate 3 und gehe Goblins und Trolle anzünden, lol.
Ich wünsche dir viel Spaß dabei. Danke für die 100 Bits. Das ist halt wirklich völlig gestört. Das ist völlig gestört, was der hier betreibt, so.
Martinez, I'm home! Woo, this is fun, man!
Of course, this all gets worse when they accuse Jake of holding their money hostage, as Jake and whoever else was the higher up at Team 10 refused to send any of it back to their family in Spain who could use the help.
We did a brand deal with Team 10. We're like, yo, Team 10, can you guys send it to my mom? To my mom because she needs money. Guys, I asked them about bank account in LA. And they're like, you guys don't have visas, so you guys can. And then I found out now you can have a bank account in LA without any permission.
Wieso haben die keine Visas? Die müssen doch so ein Work-related Visa haben, weil die doch da arbeiten effektiv in Amerika. Die haben keine eigene Bank. Also haben die illegal einfliegen lassen, um dann sozusagen. Das ist halt Sklaverei, Bro. Das ist halt Leibeigenschaft. Das ist halt fucking Menschenhandel. Wenn die keine eigenen Möglichkeiten haben, sich selbst zu finanzieren, wenn die für die für die Arbeit, die sie leisten, die Immobilie, in der sie auch arbeiten müssen, in der sie die auch, da wo sie dann auch wohnen, wenn sie komplett von ihrem Arbeitgeber abhängig sind, Digga, das ist halt, da werden die Kriterien von Menschenhandel erfüllt. Gehen wir mal rüber zu Menschenhandel. Bundesweiter Koordinationskreis gegen Menschenhandel e.V. Menschenhandel ist die Ausbeute der Prostitution oder vorhandene Sexualverhalten oder eine Beschäftigung in dem Fall, Ausbeute der Bettelerei, Begehung von Straftaten, Betrug Handel, nein, Sklaverei, Leibeigenschaft, Schuldknechtschaft oder entsprechende Verhältnissen, Beschäftigung. In dem Fall ist das Zwangslage oder Hilflosigkeit im Ziel der Ausbeute, der Beschäftigung. Das ist Ausbeute. Ausbeute mit dem Ziel der Beschäftigung. Die beuten die ja aus für Content. Die sind ja auch 5 Jahre an ihn gebunden. Der bezieht ja, Digga, das ist Ausbeute. Die haben einfach fucking Match. Jake Paul hat einfach Menschen aus Spanien illegal nach Amerika geholt, um die gezielt auszubeuten. Das ist Menschenhandel. Ich habe was für dich, wenn wir uns nächstes Jahr sehen. Du machst auf der Gamescom? Ich bin gespannt. Was denn wird dir gefallen? Ah, krass. Bin gespannt.
So the reason is like they were lying to us to have our money.
It's worth noting that they've since forgiven Jake, it seems, but all of this does go on to show what a house of horrors this place really was.
Die haben dem dafür, dass wir Menschen handelt wurden, haben sie ihn vergeben. Oder? Das ist halt schon wieder anders kaputt, ne? Das ist schon wieder anders kaputt.
You wanna go back to Spain? You wanna go back to
Spain? 14-year-old AJ Mitchell once stated he drank so much at a Team 10 party he blacked out, telling the New York Times about parties the group would attend, in which 20 to 30
in Amerika, alle Leute kriegen direkt komplett Schnappatmung. Was? 14-Jähriger trinkt Alkohol? Direkt alle am Ausrasten.
30-year-olds would be mingling with teenagers, leading AJ to start a sexual relationship with a woman nearly a decade older than him, whom he had met at an influencer party, stating, "I was just a baby.
Emotional damage."
10 Jahre älter. Mit 14, 10 Jahre älter. Also sie war 24 und er war 14. Das ist in Amerika, die finden das gar nicht lustig. Die finden das gar nicht lustig, so ein Hörer. Ich meine, also ohne Visa nutzen dieser schamlos aus. Ja, es ist krank, es ist halt komplett krank. Ich hätte ihm das in den Schädel gepfeffert. Das war richtig. Also ja, aber es ist halt. Ich wusste nicht, dass das so übel war.
I had a baby face. I feel like that's just weird now. His mother telling the Times, "Had I known in..."
Aber das ist doch okay, weil sie eine Frau ist. Wir wissen ja alle, Männer können nicht sexuell missbraucht werden, Kappa. Stimmt, er hat es bestimmt genossen, der 14-Jährige, der gar nicht wusste, dass er da gerade irgendwie... Das ist halt, Digga, das ist halt schon weird, ne? Er hat keine sexuelle Beziehung, er wurde, ja. Weil er zu jung war, um Consent zu geben. Dementsprechend kann er ja nicht einwilligen und alles, was da in irgendeiner Weise, ne, muss ja dann Missbrauch gewesen sein. Also, Bro, das ist ja keine Beziehung, weil du zu jung warst. Weil der Age of Consent ist in Amerika nämlich nicht 14. In manchen Staaten ist es 16, in manchen Staaten ist es 17 und in vielen ist es auch erst 18 so. Deswegen, also der war halt minderjährig und alles, was da halt daraus resultierte, war halt dann in dem Fall Missbrauch, wenn sie halt nicht minderjährig ist. Und selbst dann ist es auch. Ja, die sind dann super streng.
Anything about any relationship with a girl 10 years older than him, I would have had the law involved. But AJ kept the full scope of his experiences hidden from even his parents until he left the group in late 2016, just months ahead of Jake being forced to move for turning his ritzy LA neighborhood into a living hell for neighbors. See, Jake has never been known for having much regard for the people around him. In fact, it's quite the opposite.
Digga, die wohnen da mitten in einem Wohngebiet. Gut, die sind da wahrscheinlich alle reich so, aber das sieht nicht aus wie ein Ort, wo du halt diesen Scheiß machen kannst, den die da machen, Alter.
Brash and uncaring demeanor is what fuels his ego and bank account. But that doesn't mean a few haven't tried to pick apart his psyche either. Enter YouTube's favorite animal lover, Shane Dawson.
I don't know if I
Ist das?
love that specific attention though. With like the neighbors. Like I didn't like beefing with them, you know?
Premiered on September 25th, 2018, the mind of Jake Paul aimed to examine the relationships and psychology of a man who had become pretty much despised across the entire internet, taking place over the span of 8 episodes with a runtime of about 7 hours. For perspective, I barely publish 7 hours of content a year. I want you to imagine for a second, having to work on this series and spending tens of hours in a room with these 2 individuals, then tell me there's a god. Despite a few insightful
Kinder hat Shane auch ganz doll lieb. Ernsthaft? Kennt ihr nicht, ich hab von dem noch nie gehört. Aber das klingt gar nicht gut.
interviews with people like Alyssa Violet going into more detail about her relationship with Jake, the series didn't actually reveal too much about the inner workings of Jake's mind, with Shane and his associate Katie Morgan being widely criticized for not being subject matter experts, along with their liberal use of the word sociopath being a problem. If you ask me, anytime Shane made a documentary on someone, it was always because they needed their reputation saved. Shane was never as concerned about doing an objective analysis focus on his subjects more than he was trying to rehabilitate the careers of people who he figured deserved a second chance. And to get
Bruder. Wer ist der Clown? Also ist er denn überhaupt Psychologe?
give him credit, it did work. The series garnered over 175 million views, and undoubtedly ended up shining a more positive light on Jake Paul. By that point, it was clear that whether you loved or hated the Pauls, they weren't becoming any easier to avoid. Made even clearer when Jake and Tana Mojo's subsequent relationship and marriage trended everywhere the following summer.
There we were. Shane Dawson's sociopath kids getting engaged at a nightclub in Las Vegas, Nevada.
As we know from prior instances, Jake has always had a tendency to fabricate his relationships with women when it directly benefits his.
Jeffree Star, das war der Dude. Jake Paul. Ja, Jake Paul ist der jüngere Bruder von Logan Paul. Der im Make-up. Alles klar, klar. Der hat aber auch schon ganz andere Sachen, glaube ich, auch noch gerissen, oder? Der war auch schwierig, ne? Irgendwas war da. Aber den hab ich ganz vage auf dem Radar. Ey, es gibt so Blackface mit. Hat Jen Dawson auch nochmal gemacht. Ja, safe. Chefschmutzmensch. Auch da werden wir mal reingucken. Rassismus oder sowas war da, ne? Oh ja, stimmt. Ey, es gibt so viele unglaublich schwierige. Warum ist Amerikas Creative Space ein großer Shitstorm? Einfach nur ein großer Shitpool. Egal, wo du hinguckst, das ist halt so schlimm. Warum ist das so? Warum ist das so? Schmutzmenschen. Ja, aber nur als eine Ansammlung an Schmutzmenschen. Die geben sich gegenseitig die Klinke in die Hand da. So geht der nächste, weil ne, der Shitstorm zu groß ist, kommt der nächste. Was ist das denn? Dieser eine Dude, dieser Shane Dawson, der anscheinend Kinder auch sehr, 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 sehr gerne hatte, chillt er mit anderen Dudes, so, der anscheinend auch Kinder sehr gerne hatte, der jetzt, keine Ahnung, Jake Paul, White Knighted, der alles andere als vernünftig ist und Logan Paul, ich kann das. Was ist denn in Amerika falsch gelaufen, Alter? Amerika ist das Land der unbegrenzten Möglichkeiten. Der Name kommt nicht von ungefähr so langsam, wundert mich da bei denen gar nichts mehr. Unbegrenzten Shitstorm. Also unbegrenzt im Sinne von die Grenzen der menschlichen Abgründe, die werden dort explored. Ey, das kannst du dir nicht ausdenken.
His financials. First, he pretended to have a relationship with Alyssa Violet. Then it was Erica Costell, another member of Team 10 who you can see in Jake's Losing My Virginity vlog. But after that time,
allein die Tatsache, dass er mit mehreren Leuten aus diesem Haus zusammen war, ist ja schon schwierig, weil die vertraglich und finanziell damit auch an ihn gebunden sind. Und er dadurch ja deren Chef in Anführungsstrichen ist. Und dass solche Machtverhältnisse ausgenutzt werden können und meist auch werden, ist uns ja allen hoffentlich bewusst. Und das, was jetzt die erste, war das Violet, ich habe ihren Vornamen vergessen, berichtet hat, zeigt ja auf, dass genau das ja auch passiert ist. Dass das nicht ein Einzelfall war, ne? Das ist so kaputt. Dieser Mensch ist absolut Schmutz.
Everybody in Team 10 said fucking got married to each other, Jake realized the potential of faking an engagement for engagement. Wedding content is always going to do numbers, and frankly, I can't think of a better business move than when he and Tana's fake marriage generated millions of clicks and dollars. I still remember back then how everybody was talking about Jana every day, all of the time. Two of the most contentious celebrities getting together like this made for an inescapable, effective grift, I have to say. And what's even more convenient than having a fight break out mere seconds after tying the knot? A live stream that goes up in flames. Not only did this thing start 4 hours after the scheduled time, the actual ceremony was a 10-minute laggy, glitchy mess with such poor connection you could barely hear what.
Der soll seine Katze sexuell misshandelt. Wie mache ich das ungehört? Ja, was ist das für ein... Was sind das für Geschöpfe? Was sind das für Kreaturen? Diese Abgründe. Diese Abgründe.
Anybody was saying. But with 70,000 fans all paying a $50 entrance fee to watch it unfold live from home, the stream still generated over $3 million regardless of any technical issues. And I will be the first to say, I do not feel bad if you got scammed by this. Are you kidding me? $50 to watch two people who look like siblings pretend to get married? The thing wasn't even legally binding, but everyone pretty much knew that already and weren't shocked to see them break up just a few months later. What fans were more surprised at, however, was when Tana seemed to address the situation from a more sobered perspective.
And then my dad almost died that
Kapitalismus,
night
ja.
of the wedding. He had a stroke.
Kapitalismus einfach durchgespielt. Wirklich einfach komplett durchgespielt.
And I was in Vegas and I've been having all these dreams that he was gonna die, and then I thought he was gonna die. So I didn't go on the honeymoon, and this giant part of me wanted Jake so badly to stay and like take care of me. And when he didn't, I was so heartbroken, but it's again my fault. After talking about it with him afterwards, like Jake verbatim has said, you know, when someone dies, I celebrate their life and I move on. That's how I was raised.
I celebrate their life and then I move on. Have some bit of compassion. Ey, was ist... Ja, God of Chaos, du brauchst jetzt nicht... alles gut, wir glauben dir. Alles gut. Brauch das jetzt nicht breit treten. Das ist schon widerlich genug, dass du das... Also, alles gut.
To fix this person who was so emotionally up, but then when it came time for them to like help me and fix me, they couldn't, and that was my fault for falling for that, you know.
The genuine pain here in her voice speaks volumes to me, and only confirms what we heard from Alyssa earlier, that Jake uses the people in his life like pawns, pieces on a chessboard that only exists to further his own career. No matter how hard Alyssa or Tana may have tried to get Jake to engage with them on an authentic human level, Jake absolutely refused to maintain any sort of relationship with them when the cameras weren't rolling, as his top priority.
Das ist halt so messed up. Das ist halt so messed up. Das ist halt so messed up. Alles eine Performance, einfach alles. Alles eine Performance nur für Geld.
Is and has always been to make as much money off the backs of anyone in his life. And predictably enough, yes, that includes his 8-year-old Jake Paulers.
Let me real quick recap what Team 1000 actually was.
Or I guess wasn't, because it was nothing.
If you thought Logan wasn't gonna let his brother in on all the scamming fun, you'd be sorely mistaken. In fact, Jake's own history of shady promotions dates way further back than any of Logan's. Jake effectively set the blueprint on how smarmy celebs everywhere could swindle money out from the bank accounts of their fans' parents with the launch of Edfluence in 2018. See, Jake was determined to teach the next generation of young, up-and-coming influencers how to make it in such a competitive industry. And considering YouTuber had become one of the most sought-after jobs among today's youth, it's no surprise the course became popular. For a brief period, children all over were paying the low price of just $7 to learn the ropes from their favorite role model and join the lucrative Team 1000. Only it wasn't actually $7, and Team 1000 never existed. As it turned out, the full actual course was split into several multi-episode chapters under a completely different package.
Natürlich hat er Coachings angeboten. Natürlich. Alles andere wäre ja auch unseriös, nach dem, was wir alle schon gehört haben von ihm.
Costing you a grand total of $64 as opposed to the $7 price point he advertised. So really, you were paying $7 to watch a commercial for the real deal. Which sure, it may have been a bit scummy and misleading as all hell, but at least the subject matter made up for it, right?
It is kind of ironic that we are talking about YouTube. Chapter 13. Oh, sorry about that, guys. It's actually chapter 12. Come on, Jake, what are you doing? Sorry, Jake, there's a lot of chapters. All right, Jake, let's do this.
As stated, Jake's mission was to equip you with all the appropriate skills needed to make it big like him. To a lot of kids, this course was their one-way ticket to stardom. But according to anyone who actually tried it, this wasn't really the case.
The more subscribers that you're getting, the more money that you're making, so that you can spend even more time on making videos, which helps your videos do better. And so guys, be consistent. Stick to a schedule. Don't go away from it.
one thing that you could do is...
Similar to almost every online training course peddled by greedy influencers, most, if not all of the material within could be found available elsewhere on the internet for free. Shockingly, Jake was...
Bleib konsistent, weil mit mehr Konsistenz, mehr Videos, ne? Mit mehr Videos, mehr Geld, mit mehr Geld hast du mehr Zeit, mehr Videos zu machen und so. Ist ein guter Rat, wenn man jetzt nicht von alleine drauf gekommen, dass wenn man irgendwas gut werden möchte, dass man dranbleiben muss, so. Hätte einem die Oma auch nicht sagen können, so. Aber ich meine, dafür halt Geld zahlen, das macht man ja auch gerne, so. Ne?
wasn't giving you any insight into how the algorithm worked or the secret recipe for success. He was more just rattling off some of the most basic advice you could ever give, like saying people naturally want to retweet and engage on super funny videos and memes. Or follow as many people as you can and encourage them to subscribe to you. Or suck up to bigger creators and leech clout off of them, something that, to Jake's credit, he does have a lot of experience doing. Unsurprisingly, the course was panned by critics as just a quick and easy money grab at the expense of those who sincerely believed Jake could offer anything of value to their budding careers. And if it weren't for these videos by Drew Gooden, it's possible the program would have gone even more ignored, considering that by 2020, Edfluence was completely shut down. Ending the course indefinitely out of nowhere, countless people out there paid $64 for a useless link to a dead end. And about a month after that, he announced another course by the name of the Financial Freedom Movement, which he sold as an alternative to traditional higher education. Basically, it was supposed to be a more refined version of Edfluence from what I can tell, but whenever I try to access the site now, hey, color me surprised.
Financial Freedom Movement. Sehr originell.
For one reason or another, the thing kinda quietly fizzled out, but that doesn't mean it was the last of Jake's scams by any stretch of the imagination. Before Twitch gambling scandals were even a thing, Jake could be found making hundreds of thousands in sponsorship deals from Mystery Brand, a loot box company that allowed players to spend anywhere from $12 to $100 in hopes of winning fidget spinners, designer outfits, cars, and even houses. Yeah, that's literally how this thing was marketed. I'm not even joking.
I'm going for the car. The one and only real car, Rolls-Royce Phantom. 2018.
0.25% chance of winning the Rolls Royce. 99.75% chance of winning the shoes. Whoever made this site, you're a freaking genius.
For all intents and purposes, it was a gambling site, one that ridiculously tried to insist you could win decadent prizes like $1,000 shoes, all from a comparatively small investment. Only the people who bought into it ended up walking away with fake Bape hoodies, if they even received their item at all, with quite a few users reporting missing packages with fake tracking numbers. One user writing, "I spent $350 on items and $38 on shipping. 1 month and 3 weeks later, I have not received anything, and the status hasn't changed to shipped." And no surprise to anyone who made
Das ist halt einfach ein Scam gewesen. Das ist halt einfach ein Scam gewesen.
Past elementary school, the service was absolute dog shit. One of the most shameless attempts at robbery I've ever seen, with the $250 million mansion they said you could win not even being owned by the company.
Okay, let's start off with going for maybe an iMac.
See, you and I may have expected that, but Jake Paul's core audience didn't necessarily know better. The guy they developed a parasocial relationship with during the most impressionable stage of their lives had tricked them into blowing their parents' money on fake luxury items that, for the most part, were never gonna come, pocketing the presumed 6 figures he made off what everyone and their dog understands to be a blatant money grab. But just like Edfluence, he made off with a pretty decent chunk of change, so why stop there, right? As CoffeeZilla will tell you, Jake Paul has made quite the name for himself in the crypto space, to the extent that even the SEC knows who he is, which really is not what you want. As of 1 week prior to me writing this script, Jake was...
Wenn sogar Government Agencies dich auf dem Plan haben. Dass der nicht dem nicht das Handwerk gelegt wurde, ich check's nicht. Dass der nicht noch irgendwie mal schon mal vor Gericht musste oder sowas.
required by the government to pay a $400,000 fine for promoting an alleged crypto scheme alongside Lindsay Lohan and a few other celebrities, who are all said to have illegally touted cryptocurrencies owned by companies TRX and BTT, founded by Justin Sun, who was charged with fraud and market manipulation himself. Just an awesome circle jerk of amateur crooks, really. Jake's complete roster of crypto scams is so prolific, we don't even have time to detail all of them here. Just know the short list consists of MILF Token, Yummy Token, Stick Dicks, Safe Moon, Tronics, and Scared Devil NFT, earning him a combined.
Klingen alle völlig vertrauenswürdig. Aber NFT, ganz ehrlich, die ganzen Token-Scheiß so, Digga, das ist alles ein Cash-Grab. Sorry, mach ich mich vielleicht unbeliebt bei den Leuten, die wenigen, die das absolut abfeiern, so, aber das ist alles ein fucking Scam, Mann. Wenn irgendein Influencer meint, einem einen NFT andrehen zu wollen, so, Digga, das ist ein Scam. Die wollen doch nur, damit du da dein Geld rein investierst, damit sie ihren Wert, da sie ja vorher schon rein investiert haben, den Wert halt den steigern und dann ganz schnell den ganzen Scheiß verkaufen können. Und du bleibst mit einem Scherbenhaufen, der wertlos ist, übrig zurück. So, das ist halt einfach ein fucking Statement. Ja, aber ich sehe auch gerade Lawsuit Time, deswegen kann gut sein, dass er jetzt langsam das Gesetz, die Härte des Gesetzes abkriegt. NFTs verstehe ich auch nicht. Ja, letztendlich sind das einfach ähnlich wie Aktien, nur halt digital auf der Blockchain und trotzdem wertlos. Aber weil Leute glauben, dass da ein Wert hintersteckt, haben sie Wert. Und deswegen kannst du Leute damit abzocken. Wie der Aktie halt. Nur, dass da tatsächlich kein Wert hintersteckt.
Net of about $2.2 million, according to CoffeeZilla's analysis, as most of which have to do with Jake not disclosing that these were paid advertisements, something that the SEC does not view kindly, considering the hefty fines Kim Kardashian and DJ Khaled have both been required to pay in the past.
Ouch.
But this wasn't Jake's first time dealing
1,26 Millionen und er wird verhaftet. Na, endlich, Mann. Interessant werden können. Beispiel CSGO-Items. Jegliche Arten von NFTs sind Scam und Abzocke. Ob das jetzt in dem Game sind oder außerhalb, Digga, NFTs ist fucking Scam.
with the law either. Apart from his COVID parties prompting the mayor of Calabasas to pass new restrictions across the entire city, Jake continued his streak of national infamy in 2020 when he got his house raided by the FBI. If you know nothing about this story, I understand that may sound like a lot, so let's back up a little bit.
Well, Jake Paul's attorney says he was out of state and not at his Calabasas home during that raid today. The FBI says they're investigating allegations of criminal acts.
On August 5th, 2020, footage of armored trucks driving down Jake Paul's neighborhood went viral across Twitter and TikTok as men dressed in full riot gear could be seen entering the Team 10 mansion and leaving with what appeared to be giant firearms, which, apart from some pretty good tweets, fueled wild speculation as to what Jake could have possibly done this time to warrant a full-on FBI visit and confiscation. Not to mention the home of his friend being raided in Las Vegas that same day. At first, we really didn't have much to work with. Not even his brother knew much when the news first broke.
I'll tell you what I know.
Nothing.
I know what you know. I don't know shit. I know my brother's okay. Physically, he's fine. But I don't know, I'm out of the loop on this one, guys.
It wasn't until a source from the FBI's Phoenix location told The Verge they were investigating allegations of criminal acts concerning a riot at an Arizona mall that took place in May of that year. An incident that Jake was actually charged for by the Scottsdale police back in June. See, Jake landed himself in hot water when he chose to vlog a protest for George Floyd. And when looting broke out, local police received over 100...
Natürlich machst du an solchen Situationen erstmal einen Vlog an, weil du musst ja Content aus der Situation schlagen. So, geht ja nicht anders. Ist ja Unterhaltung, ne? Es ist halt einfach.
Tips and videos of Jake Paul supposedly engaging in unlawful assembly and criminal trespassing. And while Jake maintained he wasn't involved in any looting or vandalism, he was on camera accepting a stolen bottle of alcohol very clearly taken from the store that was being looted. I'm not even sure why he was there in the first place. I don't normally count on either of the Paul brothers to obtain any substantial documentation of civil rights protests, but hey, the charges were dropped about a year later and all was right in the world. With slightly fewer legal issues on his hands.
Ohne Witz, als ob die Charges gedroppt werden würde, wäre er nicht reich gewesen. Als wäre er nicht reich. Das kannst du doch nicht ausdenken, Mann. Das ist dabei, während die Leute Gebäude plündern, ne, nimmt geplünderte Ware an, aber hat nichts damit zu tun gehabt, so. Oh, okay. Das kannst du.
Jake could finally go back to doing what he did best. Vlogging, I mean making music, I guess? If you hadn't heard about Jake Paul's short-lived music career he tried to get off the ground, I envy you. I think we can agree he wasn't particularly skilled at anything that didn't involve stirring up controversy. So when the shock and awe of his persona slowly wore off, he wasn't sure where to go next. He tried to revive Team 10 to no avail. Began making videos with Titus, or mini Jake Paul, which opens up another ethical discussion that we really don't have time to get into right now. And before his boxing career reached the point it's at now, Jake's existential dread was setting in big time. With nowhere else to go, Jake decided to throw himself into music. I don't know if I can play any of this stuff, as I assume it's copyrighted, but we can at least enjoy some of these lyrics. I came with the hits like Derek Jeter, keep a check inside the Louis like Even Stevens. My shit hitting top 50, I really don't think it is, man. It's true Jake had always rapped a little, but this was his first genuine attempt to make it such a focal point of his career, it seemed. Even after dropping several big tracks one after the other and collaborating with TV Gucci, Jake wasn't being taken seriously as a rapper. His predicament was becoming more apparent. Jake had really holed himself in with the age of the audience he had been garnering the past 5 years. His core demographic of children could only stay young for so long before they aged out of his content. Jake and his videos.
Ich finde das ganz weird, muss ich ehrlich gestehen, dass dieser Mensch so junge Fans hat. Ich finde das ganz weird. Der ist da schon locker lange über 20. Das ist so weird.
Did not mature with his fans, and with the way things were going, he needed a way back into the spotlight. Inching dangerously close to becoming another washed-up clout chaser living in the shadow of someone more successful than him, boxing proved to be the only way out for Jake. Launching as a
Definition schlechtes Vorbild. Nee, der ist nicht 93 geboren, der ist nicht ein Jahr jünger als ich. Der ist 97 geboren.
Official debut in 2020, Jake actually made some pretty decent headway in the sport, winning his first 6 fights in a row. All this new confidence led to him famously calling out Conor McGregor and even Andrew Tate. But still, the people he had fought up until that point weren't exactly other boxers. He fought a YouTuber, a retired NBA player, and several UFC fighters. But to boxing purists, Jake was far from a real contender. So to put an end to the doubters once and for all, he finally fought professional boxer Tommy Fury in early 2023 and lost. Could be a hiccup in his career or the start of the end.
Unangenehm! Unangenehm. Keine Ahnung vom Boxen, aber das klingt nicht gut. Wenn du vorher gegen Leute, die nicht aus deinem Dingens kommen, aus deinem Sport kommen, besiegst, kämpfst so, ist halt nicht das Gleiche, ne? Boxer haben einen anderen Schwerpunkt und als jetzt jemand, der MMA macht oder was weiß ich was so. Und er hat sich natürlich krass aufgespielt. Ist ja natürlich, ne? Ist ein Mann und so, ist ein männlicher Macho, also. So, um dann halt gegen jemanden, der auch wirklich Boxer ist, dann zu verlieren, das ist halt unangenehm. Ne? Vor allem, wenn man sich vorher als die Kampfsportlegende gefeiert hat, das ist unangenehm.
Honestly, I have no idea. Time will tell if he's ever considered amongst the greats, but it's hard to deny he hasn't been able to expand his outreach and grow his bank account exponentially in the meantime. As recent as 2022, Forbes pinned Jake as the 46th highest paid athlete of that year, raking in a whopping $38 million, not including the extra $30 million he just made from fighting Tommy. I don't think Jake really cares a lot about what the boxing community thinks of him. The guy is making bank and is still clinging onto relevancy thanks to the mass publicity he gets from being boxing's new biggest heel. But that's not to say there haven't been more serious claims made about Jake either. And yes, there is a trigger warning here for brief descriptions of SA, so if you aren't comfortable with that, please skip ahead to the time code on screen now. On April 9th, 2020.
Nach dem, was wir alles schon gehört haben, jetzt am Ende kommt eine Triggerwarnung. Oh boy, ich will gar nicht wissen, worum es jetzt geht.
2021, TikTok influencer Justine Paradise published a video to her YouTube channel accusing Jake Paul
Sexual assault
of sexually assaulting her at the Team 10 house in 2019. Throughout the 20-minute video, Justine claims the two met through a mutual friend that summer, and that she visited his home on several occasions from June to July, which can be corroborated by text messages sent between herself and Jake. She alleges that during one of those meets, he backed her into a corner away from everybody else in the house and began kissing her, which she didn't have a problem with, thinking he wouldn't make her do anything that she didn't want to do. Though he continued to bring her into his room, she says, where he began putting her hands in places she didn't feel comfortable. When she attempted to move them away, she alleges he said, "If nothing's going to happen, what's the point?" before getting on top of her and making her perform oral sex. Afterwards, she states he became cold and stopped talking to her, as she was required to stay silent on account of a non-disclosure everyone who enters the house must sign. Jacob
Emotional damage! Allein der Non-Disclosure, den du unterschreiben musst, wenn du das Haus betrittst. Allein das, absolut sass. Selbst wenn das alles nicht wahr ist, so allein die Tatsache schon macht mich hellhörig. Wenn du nichts zu verbergen hast. Wenn du nichts zu verbergen hast, dann musst du Leute nicht dazu drängen, wenn sie das Haus betreten wollen, einen Non-Disclosure Act zu unterschreiben. Bro, das ist halt so messed up.
since denied all of Justine's claims.
Ja, natürlich macht er das. Natürlich macht er das. Aber alle bisher immer gemacht.
An attorney telling the New York Times, our client categorically denies the allegation, prompting Justine to be sent death threats and harassment by his fans.
I'm getting so many threats in my DMs, not just from random people, but people who are in Los Angeles telling me that they're here so I need to watch my back. People saying that they will fight me if they see me. People saying that I need to kill myself. Like, there are so many messages of people telling me just to kill myself. And that's super overwhelming for me because I've never experienced this amount of hate on the internet before. It's so strange to watch so many people judge even the tiniest things I say, or if I'm looking off to the side when I'm talking, which I do a lot. It's so weird to have this much attention, and especially for so much of it to be negative. It's really hard.
Aber wir dürfen sie doch nicht wir dürfen ihn ja nicht vorverurteilen. Der Richter hat ja noch nicht. Aber sie darf man vorverurteilen. So, das ist natürlich klar, weil er ist eine Frau. So. Und dann ist ja auch noch die Morddrohung, alles Mögliche, weil wir können ja nicht beweisen, also muss man sie erstmal attackieren. Klassiker.
Not even a week after the initial claim came out, a model and actress by the name of Rayleigh Lawley, who had been working with Jake since 2017, also claimed to the New York Times he had referred to her as jailbait throughout their time working together, and that he routinely...
Sie war 17. Und damit minderjährig in Amerika. Weiß ich, in LA? LA Age of Consent... Es gibt sogar eine Liste, richtig. By Authority. By LA. LA liegt doch in... da oben. Unrestricted 18. Alles klar. Und damit war das illegal. Damit war es illegal. Unrestricted, also ohne alles mäßig, ne? Ohne, dass die Eltern damit irgendwie... Also es gibt... ja, das war sozusagen, war das halt mit Minors. Flirted. Mäßig. Also Kalifornien ist da relativ streng. Mit der strengste Bundesland.
Made comments on her appearance, and after filming one video in 2017, she alleges he groped her. After forcefully telling him to stop, he reportedly ran out of the room. Rayleigh quit not long after, candidly stating, "I was with Jake for months, and I saw what kind of person he was behind the scenes, and what kind of person he put out to the rest of the world."
How much money have you made?
A lot. I don't know. It gets to a point where you make so much that you don't even count it anymore.
The Paul brothers have curated a very specific image of how they want the public to perceive them. Making themselves out to be these infamous villains of YouTube means that everyone just naturally expects them to be assholes, and thus allows them to get away with more. For years, Logan and Jake have taken turns.
Das ergibt tatsächlich echt viel Sinn. Das ergibt tatsächlich viel Sinn. Man erwartet nicht, dass das normale, moralische Menschen sind. So. Und wenn man dann mal was hört, so, dann wundert man sich schon fast gar nicht.
being the more annoying of the two. Logan will mess up and get into some trouble in the woods, so Jake becomes the lesser of two evils, until he gets caught promoting the most egregious scam an influencer has ever done, until Logan decides to outdo him. It's just been a competition to see who can be the worst brother since they stumbled their way into the limelight as teenagers. While you may expect people who have spent so much of their adolescence living a very public life of luxury and opulence to at least mature as time goes on, you may be surprised to learn just how consistently awful these two have always been.
Ich glaube an dem Punkt, wenn du dein ganzes Leben lang damit Content gemacht hast, eine gewisse Identität ins Internet zu reproduzieren, in der du halt dich als einen gewissen jugendlichen Menschen darstellst, dass du im Inneren auch nicht erwachsen wirst. Ich glaube, ein Stück weit bleibt diese Identität. Also wundert mich nicht, dass die sich so genauso verantwortungslos hinter den Kulissen anscheinend verhalten, wie sie sich in ihren Videos geben. Das wundert mich tatsächlich nicht. Vor allem, wenn es halt für sie funktioniert hat und sie von fremden Menschen ihr ganzes Leben lang immer Bestätigung für genau dieses Verhalten bekommen haben, dann gibt es natürlich dann auch meiner Meinung nach keinen wirklich internen Drang, erwachsener zu werden, wenn du ja eigentlich für deine Art einfach nur Bestätigung die ganze Zeit bekommst und dafür gefeiert wirst. Ja, weil der Mensch hat ja eigentlich eher ein Interesse daran, über sich hinauszuwachsen, wenn er halt darauf hingewiesen wird, dass gewisse Verhaltensweisen eventuell nicht erstrebenswert sind. Das werden sie ja nicht, nur in Form von Backlash und auch da bekommen sie ja. Und deswegen geht ja auch dieses narzisstische Verhalten ganz gerne auch bei Influencern mit einher, so. Weil die werden ja so erzogen. Du wirst für deine Existenz gefeiert und in den Himmel gelobt. Und wenn du mal was Negatives machst, so, dann stehen die Leute trotzdem hinter dir. Und du kannst das so framen, dass du ja eigentlich gar nicht schuld warst. Eigentlich waren sie alle anderen. Und letztendlich lernst du, keine Verantwortung zu übernehmen für dein Verhalten. Und alle anderen sind schuld immer. Und du bist eigentlich das einzige, das wahre, das höchste Wesen.
The reason for that is that they are literally financially incentivized to do so. The Paul brothers didn't earn 9 figures by being good people. They've intentionally crossed boundaries because that's what benefits them more than anything else. Without sufficient talent, Jake Paul is left scrambling to stir as much controversy as he can.
ADM1RAL_Hipster_Cheat_X100, das heißt das höchste Wesne du Kack Heider Kappa.
Na. Danke für die 100 Bits. Es tut mir leid.
So people can continue talking about what an asshole he is. Over the years, this has consisted of burning mattresses in his pool, getting himself sued for being a public nuisance, freeloading clout from people with more talent than him, calling out bigger names to fight him, and most consistently, peddling obvious scams to the audience of children he has very specifically targeted. The women who have come forward with their own disturbing allegations of him tend to get shoved to the side, since Jake generates new headlines every other week. He's always keeping himself in the news cycle, but never takes accountability for anything he does, making his grift just as endless and lucrative as the one his brother has been pushing for years. To me, Logan and Jake each represent everything wrong with the internet. Two entitled blowhards who haven't had to struggle
das trifft's eigentlich ziemlich gut. Sie verkörpern eigentlich alles, was mit Influencern und Social Media falsch läuft.
anything in life, using controversy as a device to get ahead since they have nothing else of value to offer, while using and hurting the people around them in the meantime. They're not good people, they don't deserve attention, and they're not gonna stop anytime soon. But it is fun to hate on them at least.
Keep on, keep running.
Gutes Video, sehr anstrengendes Video, es tat auf jeden Fall hart weh. Hätte nicht gedacht, dass das wieder so eine, also doch, ich habe schon gedacht, dass es schon relativ lange Reaction wird, so, ne? Aber das war auf jeden Fall anders krass. Ich wusste nicht, dass Jake Paul mindestens genauso schmutz ist wie sein Bruder. Ja. Ja, lasst ein Follow da, like das Video und falls dich in allgemein diese Art von längeren Reactions zu amerikanischem Content interessiert, dann kommentier doch dieses Video und gib mir gerne auch Input für andere Creator und Leute aus dem amerikanischen Creator Space, mit denen wir uns befassen können in diesem Stream. Oder sei im Stream dabei. In diesem Sinne, tschüss.